person named Jay. Miss you already. Last night was... The rest was cut off, but my heart stopped. I stood there holding a half-folded shirt, my mind spinning. Who was Jay? What was last night? I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend snooping through his girlfriend's phone, but that message hit me like a punch to the face. When Allison came home, she walked into the kitchen, casually turning on the blender as if nothing had happened. The noise drowned out everything, but I stood there wondering if I was imagining it all. When she turned it off, I took a deep breath and asked, "Who's Jay?" Allison didn't answer right away. She poured her smoothie into a glass, took a sip, then turned to look at me. But instead of panic or denial, she smiled, not the warm smile I once loved, but a cold, almost triumphant one. "Wondering when you'd figure it out, Michael," she said, her voice as calm as if we were discussing the weather. "Jay is my boss. And yes, I've been sleeping with him for 2 months." I stood frozen, unable to believe my ears. She didn't apologize, didn't show remorse. Instead, she smirked, eyeing me up and down like I was outdated merchandise. "I need a real man," she continued, her voice sharp as a blade. "Someone who knows what he wants and takes it, not a guy who spends weekends gaming with Jacob and watching stupid movies." Her words stabbed through my chest. 3 years together, late nights talking camping trips to Mount Rainier, cooking and laughing in the kitchen, all for this moment. But what shocked me most was the cruelty in her voice, as if she'd been waiting for the chance to say these things. I tried to stay calm, but my mind was reeling. "Does Chloe know?" I asked, thinking of the mutual friend who introduced us. Allison burst out laughing, sharp, icy sound. "Chloe's known for weeks. Most of our friends know. They get it. Jay can give me a future, not cheap dreams and excuses like you." That hurt more than her cheating. The friends I'd shared Christmas dinners with, trips to Lake Tahoe evenings, watching baseball at T-Mobile Park. They all knew and chose her side. I pulled out my phone, hands trembling slightly, and opened the group chat with Jacob and Chloe. "Is this true?" "You all knew," Jacob replied almost instantly. "Bro, you're great, but Allison deserves someone more successful. Don't take it personally." Chloe followed. "We didn't want to hurt you, but maybe this is the wake-up call you need." I looked up to see Allison watching me, that smug smile still on her face. She was waiting for me to explode, to yell, to give her a dramatic scene she could spin to everyone as poor Michael losing control. But I didn't give her that excuse. Instead, I smiled, a genuine smile that seemed to catch her off guard. Without a word, I walked to the bedroom, grabbed the bag I always kept packed for weekend trips, stuffed my laptop inside, and picked up my car keys. As I passed the kitchen, Allison stared, her smile faltering. "Where are you going?" she asked, a hint of panic in her voice. "Out," I said curtly. "And Allison, keep the apartment. I'm sure Jay will help with the rent." I heard her start to say something as I closed the door, but I didn't stop. My phone began buzzing, probably mutual friends, trying to explain their betrayal. I turned it off, drove away, and strangely, I felt relieved. Sometimes losing everything shows you what you never truly had. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I rented a room at a small motel on the outskirts of Seattle, not fancy, but clean and quiet. The owner, an older man named Pete, was kind. When I gave him a brief version of my story, he even knocked $20 off the weekly rate. After 2 days of keeping my phone off, I turned it back on to find 32 missed calls. Texts, mostly from Allison, a few from Jacob and Chloe, and some from unknown numbers. But what caught my attention was a flood of social media notifications. Allison had been busy, very busy. She'd posted stories on Instagram painting a picture of me I didn't recognize. According to her, I was a controlling, jealous boyfriend who tracked her every move. She wrote that I'd emotionally manipulated her for years, isolated her from friends, and even threw a violent tantrum when she dared to stand up for herself. Each post got hundreds of sympathetic comments, including from people I thought were my friends. The peak was a tearful video where Allison claimed I'd financially exploited her by making her split bills while I hoarded my money. It was absurd. She earned more than me and insisted on going 50-50 from the start. I sat in the motel room staring at those posts, feeling like I was watching a movie about someone else. I should have been angry. I should have fought back, posted rebuttals. But instead I felt curious. How far would she go with these lies? Then a message from Gemma, a colleague I'd known for years, jolted me. Check your email. Something circulating at work about you. I opened my inbox and found a company-wide email about fostering a safe workplace, with a vague reference to recent concerning behaviors from certain employees. No names, but the timing was too obvious. I began to realize Allison didn't just want to ruin our relationship. She wanted to erase my reputation. But the story didn't stop there. One afternoon, I stopped by my favorite coffee shop in Capitol Hill, a place I thought was safe since Allison always hated their coffee. The barista, who'd always been friendly, looked at me like I was trash. I later learned Allison had become a regular there, sharing her survivor story with anyone who'd listen. I felt like the world was turning against me, but a part of me started to wonder if she was trying this hard to destroy me. Was she hiding something bigger? The next shock came from Juliana, Allison's best friend. I ran into her while picking up stuff from a storage unit. Juliana looked nervous, glancing around like she was afraid of being caught talking to me. You need to be careful, she whispered. Jay isn't just Allison's boss. His wife has powerful connections, and Allison's telling her you're unstable, even dangerous. I frowned. Why are you telling me this? Juliana looked down, her voice trembling. Because this isn't the first time. Before you, there was another guy at the company. Allison and Jay did the same thing to him. He had to leave town. Juliana's words were like a light in the dark. I started digging, searching public records, scouring social media, anything that could give me a clue. And I found him, Mark, a former employee, who seemed to vanish from social media right when Allison started at the company. I also uncovered old posts, vague comments from former coworkers hinting that Mark had been treated unfairly. Pieces were falling into place, but I still didn't have the full picture. Then one morning, while eating breakfast at a diner near the motel, my phone buzzed with an Instagram message from an unknown account. The profile picture showed a woman in her 40s, elegantly dressed, wearing expensive jewelry. The message was brief. I think we need to talk about my husband and your girlfriend. Coffee tomorrow. Mrs. J. My heart raced. Mrs. J's wife. I replied, agreeing to meet, unsure of what I was walking into, but trusting my gut that Allison's real man story was about to get a lot more complicated. The meeting with Mrs. J was a turning point. We met at a small cafe in Bellevue, a quiet spot with glass walls overlooking a park. Mrs. J walked in, radiating understated power. She wore a perfectly tailored blazer, her black hair neatly tied back, and her sharp eyes seemed to see through everything. Thank you for coming, Michael, she said, her voice low and steady. I've been watching Allison and my husband for a while. They're not the first, and I need your help to end this. Mrs. J placed a tablet on the table, opening a series of documents, texts, emails, expense receipts, even security footage from the company parking lot. They all pointed to a pattern. Jay used his position to seduce young employees, while Allison helped him cover it up and eliminate anyone who threatened to expose them. Before you, Mrs. J, Jay said, there were at least 3 others. Mark was the last, but not the first. I listened, a mix of awe and anger rising. This wasn't just an affair, it was a system of manipulation designed to destroy people like me. Mrs. J had a plan centered around the company's annual gala, held at a luxurious hotel in downtown Seattle. Sometimes, she said, the best revenge is letting people reveal who they truly are. I wasn't sure I wanted to be involved, but part of me wanted to see Allison and Jay face consequences. I agreed to attend, but only as an observer. I had no idea that night would change everything. The night of the gala arrived, and I showed up dressed sharper than ever, a navy suit, silk tie, polished shoes. As I stepped into the ballroom, eyes turned toward me. Allison, standing near the bar, nearly dropped her wine glass when she saw me. Jay, chatting with a group of colleagues, went silent, his face shifting from flushed to pale. I just smiled, nodding politely, as if nothing was wrong. The tension was palpable, and I knew Allison was waiting for me to do something foolish to fuel her crazy Michael narrative. Then Chloe, already tipsy, stumbled over, slurring, "You've got some nerve showing up here after what you did to Allison." I stayed calm, smiling. "What I did? That's interesting. Tell me more." Before Chloe could respond, Gemma, my colleague, stepped in. "I think everyone wants to hear the real story," she said, loudly drawing attention. Gemma pulled out her phone, displaying screenshots of Allison's internal messages, where she bragged about conquering Jay and plotting to take me down. The crowd began to murmur, and Allison looked like she wanted to disappear. But that was just the beginning. Mrs. J entered, holding a tablet, and somehow the room's projector started playing a slideshow. Texts, photos, and emails between Allison and Jay, laying bare the truth. Allison tried to stay composed, but her voice shook as she screamed at me. "You think you're so clever. You and that bitter old hag are trying to ruin everything I've built." The room went silent, all eyes on her. Then Mrs. J, calm as a queen, held up a stack of papers. "Divorce papers," she said, "filed. Jay, you're left with nothing." The crowd gasped, and Jay, pale as a ghost, hurried out, trailed by HR. But the drama didn't end. Jacob, the friend I once considered a brother, had been filming the whole scene, intending to send it to Jay to prove his loyalty. Instead, he accidentally captured Allison's complete meltdown. "Jay loves me," she shrieked, mascara streaming down her face. "We're going to have a life together." That video, thanks to Jacob, spread through the company by morning. Juliana, who'd once helped Allison ruin Mark's reputation, finally spoke up. "I was wrong," she told the room. "I helped her destroy someone else. I can't do it anymore." By midnight, the gala had dissolved. Allison left sobbing while Jay was locked in an office with management. The friends who'd sided with Allison couldn't meet my eyes as I walked out. Mrs. J took my hand before I left, whispering, "Thank you for not running." I drove back to the motel feeling an odd peace. Pete, the motel owner, was still watching late-night TV in the office. He looked at me and grinned. "Fun night," I nodded. "You could say that." But the story wasn't over. A few days later, I got a call from my landlord. Allison had tried to remove my name from the lease, claiming I'd abandoned the apartment. When that failed, she told him I'd threatened her. Luckily, the landlord, whose sister had been through something similar, called to warn me. "That girl's trouble," he said. "Don't let her drag you down." I thanked him, but in my mind I knew Allison wouldn't stop easily. Then one afternoon, while I was working, Pete called. "That girl you mentioned is making a scene in the parking lot." I drove back, taking my time, and found Allison sitting on the hood of my car, mascara smeared, holding a thick envelope. "I have dirt on everyone," she screamed, her voice shaky but trying to sound menacing. "If you don't help me stop this, I'll expose it all." I just laughed. "Go ahead, burn every bridge you have, see where it gets you." She threw the envelope at me. Inside were photos, texts, things she'd collected to manipulate others her insurance. I photographed every page, handed the envelope back. "You want to go public? Be my guest. But first look where your schemes have gotten you." Allison tore the envelope apart right there, screaming that we'd all regret it. Someone recorded it, and soon it was all over social media. Meanwhile, Mrs. J didn't let up. Her divorce was finalized, and she took most of the assets, the Mercer Island house, the cars, and most of Jay's bank accounts. Jay's severance gone to legal fees. His reputation. Google was now his nightmare. Allison, in desperation, posted a tearful video, claiming she was the victim manipulated by Jay and now hunted. But Juliana, having found her conscience, released screenshots of private texts where Allison bragged about manipulating people and mocked her victims. Allison's video was deleted within hours, and her social media accounts vanished. Mark, the guy Allison and Jay had driven out of the company, came back. He brought a trove of evidence, emails, recordings, everything he'd collected before leaving. He filed a lawsuit, and like dominoes, other former employees spoke up, each with their own stories and proof. What started as a personal scandal became a legal storm. Jay and Allison faced multiple civil lawsuits, not just from Mark, but from others they'd harmed. The company, fearing reputational damage, acted fast, firing both, and hiring a PR firm to manage the fallout. But the most memorable moment came one evening when I got a text from an unknown number. "Michael, it's Chloe. Can we talk?" I hesitated but called her back, curious. Chloe, now panicked, admitted she was scared. Allison's saved texts could ruin her career. "No, she was like that," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "I thought she was just protecting herself. I wasn't angry, just tired." "Chloe," I said, "you chose her side. Now deal with the consequences." I hung up, not needing to hear more apologies. Jacob texted too, a long ramble about how he should have been a better friend. I replied with a screenshot of his old text supporting Allison. He blocked me right after. Typical coward. Meanwhile, I started rebuilding my life. I signed a lease for a new apartment in Belltown, a small but bright place with windows overlooking Puget Sound. My job took a positive turn. I got a promotion after my boss saw how I handled a personal crisis without letting it affect my work. I even started dating someone new, Sarah, who I met through a mutual friend. We're taking it slow, no rush, but for the first time in months I felt hope. Looking back, I realized the magic of this story. Sometimes the people you think are everything turn out to be nothing, and the biggest losses open doors to new beginnings. Allison now lives with her parents in another state, her social media presence gone. The friends who sided with her are grappling with their own fallout. And me, I'm living better than ever, and that more than any revenge is the ultimate victory. But the story didn't end there. One evening while having dinner at a faux spot in the International District, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject: we need to talk about Allison. The sender claimed to be Lisa, a former colleague of Allison's from a previous job. Lisa wrote that she'd followed my story through a mutual friend and had something to share. "Allison didn't just do this at your company," she wrote. "She has a long history, and I think you need to know to protect yourself." I called Lisa that night. She explained that Allison had worked at a startup in San Francisco, where she got involved with a powerful figure, a venture capitalist. When that relationship fell apart, Allison spread rumors that he'd harassed her, costing him a major deal. But she didn't stop there. Lisa said Allison deliberately sabotaged a female colleague who suspected her behavior, sending anonymous emails to management, accusing her of financial fraud. "She's a master manipulator," Lisa said, "and she always leaves a trail of destruction." Lisa's information chilled me. I realized Allison wasn't just selfish. She was a repeating pattern, someone who built her life on deceit and destroying others. I thanked Lisa and started wondering how many others out there had Allison heard. I decided to reach out to Mark, her victim from our company. Through a mutual friend, I got his number. Mark now lived in Portland working for another tech firm. He agreed to talk, and over Zoom he detailed his story. "Allison and Jay made me out to be a liar," Mark said, his voice still tinged with bitterness. "They spread rumors that I misused project budgets, and when I tried to fight back, they had a whole crew of friends backing their story." Mark lost his job, his friends, and eventually left Seattle to start over. But he wasn't surprised by what happened to me. "She does this to everyone," he said. "She finds a target, builds trust, then destroys them when she's done with them." Mark and I started talking more regularly, and he introduced me to a small group of people who'd been victims of Allison or similar manipulators. They called themselves the Survivors, a half-joking, half-serious name that fit perfectly. One member, Emily, shared that she'd been Allison's best friend in college. Allison borrowed money from Emily to pay student loans, but then disappeared, leaving Emily with credit card debt. When Emily confronted her, Allison spread rumors that Emily was a drug addict, costing her an internship at a major firm. "She has no limits," Emily said, "but she always picks the wrong people to mess with." This group didn't just share stories, they supported each other, from finding lawyers to coping with emotional stress. I began to see that my story, painful as it was, had led me to a community that valued truth and resilience. They taught me that the best way to move past someone like Allison wasn't revenge, but living better, stronger, and not letting her lies define me. But then another twist pushed the story in a new direction. One morning while working at the office, my boss Tom called me in. "Michael," he said, his tone serious. "Someone sent an anonymous email to management accusing you of leaking internal information to a competitor. Do you know anything about this?" I was stunned. I'd never done anything like that, and I told Tom as much. He nodded, but I saw doubt in his eyes. "We'll investigate," he said, "but for now, be careful." I left the office, my mind spinning. Someone was trying to take me down, and I had a strong hunch it was Allison. She'd failed to ruin my reputation on social media, so now she was targeting my career. I called Gemma, who'd helped me at the gala, and she agreed to look into it. A few days later, Gemma called back, her voice tense. "Michael, I found an email in the internal system sent from a temporary account. It looks like Allison wrote it, but she used a fake name. She's accusing you of selling client data to a California company." My blood boiled. This wasn't just a slander, it was criminal, potentially costing me my job, or even landing me in legal trouble. I contacted Mrs. J, who'd stayed in touch after her lawsuit against J. "Send me everything you have," she said. "I know a data analyst who can trace that email." While waiting, I started gathering my own evidence, work history, client emails, anything proving my innocence. I also reached out to the survivors group, and Emily, who'd been slandered by Allison, sent me a similar email Allison had used to ruin her in college. The pieces were fitting together. Allison had a formula: make serious accusations, use fake accounts, and let the victim flounder in despair. Weeks later, Mrs. J's analyst had results. The anonymous email was sent from a Spokane coffee shop where Allison was caught on security footage that same day. The IP address matched a laptop she'd used at the company. I presented everything to Tom, who after reviewing it assured me management wouldn't act on the accusation. "You're lucky to have good friends, Michael," he said. "But this girl, she's dangerous." I thought that was the end, but Allison wasn't one to give up. One evening, while having dinner with Sarah at an Italian restaurant in Pike Place Market, I got a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Gasworks Park, 9 p.m., alone. I have something you need to know." No signature, but I knew it was Allison. Sarah, who'd heard my whole story, urged me not to go. "She just wants to trap you," she said. But I was curious, and part of me wanted to face her one last time. I went to Gasworks Park, where old machinery sat silently under the moonlight. Allison stood there in a long coat, looking frailer than I remembered. "You think you've won, don't you?" she said, her voice venomous. "But I have something that'll turn everyone against you." She held out a USB, claiming it held proof I'd embezzled company funds. I didn't touch it. "Allison," I said, "you've lost. No one believes you anymore. Keep going and you'll only hurt yourself more." She laughed, but it was a desperate sound. "You'll regret this," she said, then turned and vanished into the dark. I didn't keep the USB, but photographed her offering it and sent it to Mrs. J. It turned out to be another of Allison's tricks. The USB was empty, just a ploy to make me look like I was in a shady deal. But this time no one bought it. A video from the park caught by a random jogger showed Allison trying to hand me the USB, and me refusing. It went viral, and even those who'd once sympathized with her turned away. Now sitting in my new apartment, looking out at the city lights, I realized this story wasn't just about Allison or Jay. It was about how we face life's toughest challenges. I learned you don't have to fight every lie sometimes. You just live your truth and it finds its way. Allison might keep scheming, but she can't touch me anymore. I have a job I love, real friends, and Sarah, who reminds me that love isn't manipulation. If you're watching this video and feel trapped in a web of lies, remember, you're stronger than you think. Trust your instincts, gather evidence, and never let others define your worth. My story is proof that even when the world turns against you, you can find light at the end of the tunnel. After that moment at Gasworks Park, I thought Allison would finally give up. I was wrong. People like her never stop. They dig deeper, scheme harder, until they bury themselves. And that's exactly what happened next, with twists I couldn't have imagined, like a Hollywood drama. Stay with me, because this story is about to get crazier than ever, and I promise you won't want to miss a second. Days after the park incident, I was in my new apartment, sipping coffee and savoring a rare moment of peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Gemma. "Michael, you need to see this. Now." She sent a link to a post on an internal tech industry forum where employees share gossip and stories. The post, written by an anonymous account, accused me not only of leaking internal info, but also of being involved in a data hack at the company. It was terrifyingly detailed, mentioning specific projects I'd worked on, meetings I'd attended, even emails I'd sent colleagues. But it was all twisted as if someone had taken my life and rewritten it as a crime novel. I called Gemma immediately. "Who posted this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite my racing heart. Gemma sighed, "AITA. I'm not sure, but the writing, it feels like Allison. She knows too much about your work, and she has a motive." Anger surged, but I knew exploding would only make things worse. Instead, I contacted Tom, my boss, and explained the situation. Luckily, Tom was fair. "Michael," he said, "you proved your innocence with that anonymous email before. I trust you. But we need to find out who's behind this because it's hurting the company's reputation." Tom suggested hiring a cybersecurity firm to trace the post's origin. While waiting, I decided not to sit idle. I reached out to the survivors group, people who'd been targeted by Allison or similar manipulators. Emily, who'd been slandered by Allison in college, suggested checking other anonymous forums like Reddit or 4chan, where Allison might have left traces. People like her love to brag, Emily said. She might have posted something under a different name, thinking no one would find it. I spent the night scouring forums, searching for any clue. And then I found it, a post on an obscure subreddit from an account called Tech Queen 7. It described getting revenge on a lousy ex by exposing the truth about his workplace behavior. The language phrasing, even the punctuation, it was identical to Allison's texting style. But what chilled me was one detail. The poster bragged about hiring a dark web hacker to create fake evidence to take down their target. I screenshotted everything and sent it to the cybersecurity firm Tom had hired. Meanwhile, Allison kept moving. One morning as I arrived at the office, I got a call from Pete, the motel owner. "Michael, some girl came by asking about you. Said she's a reporter investigating a story on tech industry abuse." I didn't say anything, but be careful. A chill ran through me. A reporter, or another of Allison's games. I thanked Pete and called Mrs. J, now a trusted ally. "Sounds like another Allison trick," Mrs. J said. "She might be trying to spin a media story to back her lies." Mrs. J suggested I contact her friend, a real investigative journalist named Rachel, who worked for a major Seattle paper. Rachel agreed to meet me at a cafe in Pioneer Square. As I told my story, she took rapid notes, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Michael," she said, "if what you're saying is true, this isn't just personal drama. It's a pattern of systematic manipulation, and Allison might be targeting more people than you realize." Rachel promised to dig deeper, but warned me to brace for what might come. "If Allison knows you're fighting back, she'll play dirtier," she said. Rachel was right. Days later, I received a package at my new apartment. No sender's name, just a Spokane postmark where Allison had been seen on security footage. Inside was a stack of documents. It's printed on cheap paper titled, "The Truth About Michael Carter." The pages accused me of everything from tax evasion to harassing female colleagues. Some documents even looked like forged company emails with my signature faked. But the scariest was a photo me at Gasworks Park holding my phone the moment Allison offered the USB. Someone had been watching me that night, and Allison was clearly trying to frame me as suspicious. I immediately handed the documents to Rachel and the cybersecurity firm. Meanwhile, I got a text from Sarah, my new girlfriend. "Michael, something weird. Someone claiming to be Allison's friend texted me, saying you're not who I think. They sent a link to a blog full of awful things about you. I checked the link, an anonymous blog packed with fabricated stories about me abusing Allison and threatening colleagues. It even had a photo of me taken from a distance, likely during one of my walks in downtown Seattle. I felt hunted, but I knew I couldn't let Allison win. Rachel sprang into action. She found the blog was registered through an anonymous service, but the cybersecurity firm traced a small PayPal transaction linked to Allison. The reporter who'd questioned Pete at the motel wasn't a reporter. It was an old friend of Allison's who'd helped her spread rumors at a previous job. Rachel started contacting her sources, including former employees from Allison's San Francisco company. One, David said Allison tried to ruin his career by sending anonymous letters to clients accusing him of fraud. She's like a spider, David said. She weaves a web, waits for you to get stuck, then strikes. As Rachel built her story, I got an unexpected call from Jacob, the friend who'd betrayed me to support Allison. He sounded panicked. "Michael, I'm sorry," he said, his voice shaking. "Allison contacted me. She says she has a video of me bad-mouthing my boss at a party and will send it to my company if I don't help her take you down." I almost laughed. Jacob, who'd called me unworthy of Allison, was now begging for help. "Jacob," I said, "you picked your side. Deal with it." I hung up, feeling an odd relief. For the first time, I realized forgiveness doesn't mean letting others use you. But Allison didn't stop. She turned her sights on Sarah. One evening, as we walked along Alki Beach, Sarah got an email from an anonymous account with a distorted audio clip that sounded like me threatening someone. "Michael, is this you?" Sarah asked, her voice worried. I listened. It wasn't my voice, but it was cleverly edited to mimic me. I explained everything, and thankfully Sarah believed me. "This girl is obsessed," Sarah said. "But we'll get through this, right?" I nodded, grateful to finally have someone truly on my side. Rachel finally finished her article, published on the front page of a major Seattle paper, titled "A Web of Lies, a Tale of Manipulation in Tech." It exposed not just Allison and Jay, but their pattern of behavior across multiple companies. Rachel used anonymous sources, including Mark David and others from the survivors group, to paint a picture of a system of power, abuse, and slander. The article didn't name me directly at my request, but it was enough to shake the industry. Companies began reviewing HR policies, and Allison became the focus of widespread criticism. But the biggest shock came soon after. One morning, while having breakfast at a Fremont bakery, I got a text from Lisa Allison's former San Francisco colleague. "Michael Allison's been arrested." I nearly dropped my coffee. Lisa explained that police investigated Allison after one of her past victims, a lawyer named Karen, filed a complaint for fraud and harassment. Karen had collected evidence of Allison sending threatening emails from fake accounts. The investigation uncovered Allison's other activities, including hiring a hacker to fabricate evidence against me. Tech Queen 87 wasn't just a random account. It was tied to a dark web network Allison paid to use. I could hardly believe it. Allison, who'd arrogantly claimed she needed a real man, now faced criminal charges. I called Rachel to confirm, and she laughed over the phone. "Michael, I told you, people like Allison always go too far." She thought she was untouchable, but she shot herself in the foot. Rachel added that her article had pushed police to act faster due to public pressure. Meanwhile, I got an email from Mark. He'd won his lawsuit against Jay and the old company, securing a hefty settlement. "Thanks for not giving up," he wrote. "You inspired me to fight." I smiled, feeling like a long chapter had finally closed. But I knew my story wasn't just about defeating Allison. It was about rediscovering myself, learning to trust my instincts, and building a life worth living. Sarah and I grew closer. One evening, as we sat on my apartment's rooftop, watching the lights twinkle on Puget Sound, she took my hand. "You made it through, Michael," she said, "and I'm proud you didn't let her change who you are." I nodded, feeling a peace I hadn't known in months. I knew that no matter how hard Allison tried, she couldn't take what I'd rebuilt. A good job, real relationships, and a hopeful future. But just when I thought it was over, another message arrived, this time from an international number. "Michael, I'm Vanessa. I worked with Allison in London. She's trying to contact me, saying she has a story about you. Can we Zoom?" I sighed, but wasn't surprised. Allison, even facing legal trouble, wouldn't stop. I replied to Vanessa, agreeing to meet, and braced myself for whatever drama was coming. I met Vanessa over Zoom, unsure what awaited. But knowing with Allison nothing was random. The call was set for a Friday evening after I got home from work, sitting in my Belltown apartment with city lights sparkling through the window. Vanessa appeared on screen, a woman in her 30s, with brown hair in a ponytail, wearing a simple sweater, but her eyes were resolute. "Michael," she began with a slight British accent. "I don't know you, but I know Allison. When she contacted me mentioning your name, I knew I had to warn you." Vanessa explained she'd worked with Allison at an advertising firm in London 5 years ago. Allison, as usual, was charming and ambitious, quickly rising to project manager. But Vanessa soon saw her dark side. She had a habit of collecting dirt on people, Vanessa said. Texts, emails, even personal secrets. She called it leverage. When she wanted someone gone, she used it to manipulate or destroy them. Vanessa had been a target after refusing to help Allison cover up a major mistake in an ad campaign. Allison retaliated by spreading rumors that Vanessa was sleeping with a client, leading to her demotion. "I left London because of her," Vanessa said, her voice bitter. "But now she's trying to pull me into a new scheme, and it involves you." According to Vanessa, Allison emailed her from a new account, claiming she was launching a media campaign to expose me. Allison said she had evidence I'd sabotaged my old company and was plotting to do the same at my current one. She wanted Vanessa as an old acquaintance to spread the story on international forums, promising a cut of the profits from an exclusive story she planned to sell to a tabloid. "She thinks I'm still naive," Vanessa said, smirking. "But I saved every email she sent, and I'm ready to share them with you." Adrenaline surged. Allison, even facing criminal charges, wouldn't quit. She was like a shark, always moving, always hunting. I thanked Vanessa and asked her to send the emails. When I opened them, I saw a detailed plan. Allison had contacted multiple people, from freelance journalists to social media influencers, trying to build a narrative that I was a dangerous manipulator who needed to be stopped. She'd even created a Google Drive with evidence, fake emails, edited photos, and another audio clip, this time sounding closer to my voice, but still obviously fabricated. I sent everything to Rachel, the journalist who'd helped me before. Rachel replied instantly, her voice excited. "Michael, this is gold. Allison's not just digging her own grave, she's building a cemetery. I'll contact a colleague in London to verify Vanessa's story. If this checks out, we can expose not just Allison, but the network she's trying to create." Rachel also warned me to prepare for Allison escalating. "She knows she's losing control," Rachel said. "And people like her, when cornered, will do anything." Rachel was right. Days later, I got a call from Sarah, her voice trembling. "Michael, someone sent a package to my place. It has photos of us taken from a distance, like someone's been watching." I drove to Sarah's place in Queen Anne, my heart pounding. The package, mailed with no sender's address, contained dozens of photos of us walking at Alki, dining at Pike Place, even one of me outside my new apartment. Attached was a note printed, "Stop or she pays the price." No signature, but I knew it was Allison. She wasn't just targeting me anymore, she was dragging Sarah into the crosshairs. I hugged Sarah, trying to reassure her, but I knew she was scared. "We should go to the police," she said. I agreed, but first called Mrs. J. Allison's crossing lines. I said, explaining the package. Mrs. J, as usual, was calm, but firm. "Michael, this shows she's desperate. I have a friend at the Seattle PD. Send him everything, photos, note, anything. And don't let her see you panic. That's what she wants." I followed Mrs. J's advice, sending the package to her contact, a detective named Rodriguez. Rodriguez promised to investigate, but warned that tracing such packages is tough, especially if Allison used anonymous mailing services. Meanwhile, Rachel called with news from London. Her colleague confirmed Vanessa's story and found another former employee, Paul, who'd been similarly slandered by Allison. Paul said Allison faked a financial report to make him look like he was embezzling, leading to his firing. "She's a destruction machine," Paul said. Rachel now had enough for a second article, this time focusing on Allison's international behavior. "She's not just Seattle's problem," Rachel said. "She's left a trail from San Francisco to London." But before the second article was published, another drama erupted. I got a text from Chloe, the friend who decided with Allison. Michael, I need to see you. It's important. I hesitated, but curious agreed to meet her at a small bar in Ballard. Chloe looked haggard, her hair, messy, eyes shadowed. Allison's threatening me, she said, her voice shaking. She has a video of me bad-mouthing the company at a party and says she'll send it to my boss unless I help her spread a new story about you. I raised an eyebrow. What story? Chloe looked down, almost whispering. She says you're tied to money laundering, that you used company funds to buy Bitcoin or something. She told me to post about it on LinkedIn. I almost laughed at the absurdity, but I saw Chloe was genuinely terrified. Chloe, I said, she's manipulating you like she did to all of us. Don't do anything. Send me everything she sent you, and I'll handle it. Chloe nodded, forwarding me a series of texts and emails from Allison. In them, Allison not only threatened Chloe, but revealed she'd contacted a journalist in Los Angeles willing to publish a hit piece on me for $5,000. I passed everything to Rachel and Rodriguez, feeling like I was playing chess with an opponent who never tired. But Allison wasn't the only one with allies. One afternoon, while working, Gemma called. Michael, I got a message from someone claiming to be a hacker. They say Allison hired them to fake evidence against you, but they want to make amends. I was stunned. A hacker Gemma sent me screenshots of the messages. The person calling themselves Shadow claimed Allison paid them $2,000 to create fake emails and audio, but felt guilty knowing she was targeting an innocent person. Shadow offered to meet via an encrypted app, promising to share all their data on Allison. I contacted Shadow, unsure if it was real or another trap. Over an encrypted call, Shadow, a male voice distorted, revealed Allison hired them through a dark web marketplace. They sent me a data trove messages between them and Allison payment history, even an original audio clip Allison provided to fake my voice. She's a terrible client, Shadow said, a hint of humor in their voice. She promised more money, but didn't pay, so I'm helping you. I sent the data to Rodriguez, who confirmed it matched their investigation into Allison. Meanwhile, Rachel's second article was published, titled An International Web of Lies, a Manipulator in the Shadows. It exposed Allison's actions across cities from London to Seattle, with interviews from Vanessa Paul and others. It caused a social media storm with Allison exposed trending on Twitter. Allison's old companies faced scrutiny, and current employees spoke out revealing they'd also been manipulated by her. Public pressure pushed police to accelerate their case against Allison, and she was summoned for a second interrogation. But Allison still didn't quit. One evening, as Sarah and I watched a movie at home, the doorbell rang. I opened it to a middle-aged man in a cheap suit, introducing himself as a freelance journalist from Los Angeles. Michael Carter, he asked, his tone sleazy. I'm writing a piece about you. Did you abuse your ex, Allison Hayes? I instantly recognized him as the journalist Allison had contacted. No comment, I said, shutting the door. But he lingered, snapping photos of my apartment door, and I heard him on the phone saying Carter looks suspicious. I called Rodriguez, who sent a patrol car. The man left before police arrived, but I knew Allison was behind it. Sarah, now used to Allison's drama, took my hand. She won't stop, will she? She asked. I shook my head. No, but she's losing, and we won't let her drag us down. Days later, Rodriguez called. Michael, we have a warrant for Allison's arrest. She's facing new charges for intimidation and fabricating evidence. We found emails she sent to someone in Los Angeles, trying to hire them to stalk you and your girlfriend. I exhaled, relieved, but also a bit sad. Allison was once someone I loved, someone I thought I'd build a future with. Now she was a stranger caught in a spiral of her own making, but the story wasn't over. One morning, while jogging in Discovery Park, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Michael, it's Juliana. I need to talk. Allison's planning something big, and I think you're in danger. I stopped panting, feeling like a new chapter of this drama was about to begin. I called Juliana, and she... Her voice panicked, said Allison had contacted her from a detention center through an outside friend. She says she has a final weapon, Juliana said. I don't know what it is, but she mentioned someone named Victor, saying he'll handle you. Victor, I'd never heard the name, but my gut told me this wasn't a bluff. I contacted Rodriguez, Rachel, and Mrs. J, explaining everything. Rodriguez promised to check the detention center's records to see who Allison had contacted. Meanwhile, I got an email from Shadow the hacker, who'd helped me. Michael. I found a new transaction from Allison's account. She paid $10,000 to someone named Victor Russo. Looks like a guy who does dirty work. Shadow sent me a file. Victor Russo, a former security contractor, with a rap sheet for extortion. My heart pounded. Allison wasn't just after my reputation. She was targeting my safety. I stood there, phone in hand, heart racing, as I read Shadow's message about Victor Russo. The name, coupled with the $10,000 Allison had paid, was like a final alarm bell. I knew this story, despite all its drama and shocks, had to end. But with Allison, nothing was simple, and I braced myself for a finale more intense than anything before. Stay with me, because this is the end of the story where everything is exposed, justice is served, and I find the peace I fought so hard to reclaim. Right after getting Shadow's info, I called Detective Rodriguez. We're investigating Victor Russo immediately. He said, his tone serious. But Michael, be careful. Don't go anywhere alone, and report anything suspicious. I nodded over the phone, feeling like I was in a thriller movie. I reached out to Sarah, told her everything, and she insisted on staying by my side. We'll get through this, Michael, she said, her voice steady. She can't win. Sarah's resolve was the strength I needed, but I knew I couldn't just rely on her. I had to act. I contacted Rachel, who was still tracking Allison's story for her next article. Victor Russo is the missing piece, Rachel said. If we can prove Allison hired him to threaten you, she won't just face fraud charges. She could be convicted of conspiracy. Rachel suggested I meet Mrs. J again, as she had connections in private security. I arranged to meet Mrs. J at a quiet restaurant in West Seattle where we could talk uninterrupted. Mrs. J, as always, exuded calm authority. Michael, she said, sipping her wine, Allison has gone too far. Hiring someone like Victor Russo isn't just desperate, it's foolish. I know a security firm that can track him. They'll work with Rodriguez to keep you safe. I thanked Mrs. J, feeling like I finally had an army behind me. Rachel, Mrs. J, Shadow, and the survivors, like Mark and Emily, who stayed in touch to support me. Meanwhile, Juliana called back, her voice more frantic. Michael, Allison contacted me through a friend at the detention center. She said Victor is ready to act, and she laughed like she thinks she's won. I tried to stay calm, asking Juliana for details. She sent me a message forwarded by Allison's friend, where Allison bragged that Carter will never see this coming. I passed it to Rodriguez, who confirmed they were monitoring Allison's calls from the detention center. But then, an unexpected twist hit. One evening, while Sarah and I were dining at a sushi spot in Capitol Hill, I got a text from Shadow. Michael, Victor just reached out to me. He knows I worked for Allison and wants me to help him deal with you. I recorded everything. Shadow sent an audio file where Victor, his voice low and chilling, said, Allison paid him to teach Carter a lesson, not to kill, but enough to scare him for life. Victor also revealed Allison promised another $20,000 when the job was done, but doubted she had the money. She's a snake, Victor said, but I need the cash, so I'll do it. I sent the recording to Rodriguez, who acted immediately. Within 24 hours, Victor Russo was arrested at a cheap motel in Tacoma, where he was preparing to tail me. Under interrogation, Victor spilled everything that Allison hired him through a dark web intermediary, provided photos and my schedule, and asked him to apply pressure to make me back off. Victor turned over his phone containing messages from Allison sent via an encrypted app, but cracked by Shadow. Those messages were the final evidence Rodriguez needed. Allison was hauled into court with new charges: conspiracy to intimidate, hiring someone to commit a crime, and abusing the justice system. Rachel with support from sources in London and San Francisco, published her third article, From Manipulation to Crime, The Downfall of Allison Hayes. It detailed Allison's journey from college schemes to hiring Victor to threaten me. It shocked the tech industry, and companies began reevaluating how they handle internal slander. Allison Exposed kept trending, and this time no one stood by her. Meanwhile, I received a letter from Allison, sent from the detention center. I hesitated, but opened it. The 3-page handwritten letter mixed apologies with accusations. She claimed she lost control, was just protecting herself, and that I pushed her down this path. But between the lines, I saw the same Allison still blaming others, still believing she was the victim. I folded the letter and didn't respond. I didn't need to. She had written her own ending. Allison's trial took place months later. I didn't attend, but Rachel and Mark were there updating me. Allison was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud, harassment, and conspiracy. Victor got a lighter sentence after testifying against her. J. Allison's real man faced consequences too blacklisted from tech after his pattern of power abuse was exposed. Mrs. J, now starting anew, texted me. Justice doesn't always come fast, but it always comes. I sat in my apartment looking out at Puget Sound, feeling like a different person from the Michael of a year ago. I'd lost friends, a relationship, and nearly my reputation and safety. But I'd found something more valuable: resilience, true friends like Sarah, Rachel, and Mrs. J, and a belief that the truth, no matter how buried, always prevails. Sarah and I are planning a trip to Yellowstone, a fresh start for us both. My job is steady, and I'm considering writing a book about this saga to share how to overcome betrayal. If you're watching this video and feel trapped in a web of lies, hear me, you're not alone. Trust your instincts, find people who believe in you, and never let others define your worth. Allison tried to take everything from me, but in the end, she only helped me become my best self. This story, with all its drama and pain, is proof that even when the world turns against you, you can rise stronger than ever. Thank you for following the story to the end. If it resonated, share your story in the comments. Live true to yourself, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is living a life your enemies can never touch. The finale: betrayed, abandoned, but I found myself again. I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding, as I read Shadow's message about Victor Russo. The name, coupled with the $10,000 Allison paid, was a final warning bell. I knew this story, despite all its drama and shocks, had to end. But with Allison, nothing was simple, and I braced for a finale more intense than anything before. Stay with me, because this is the end where everything is exposed, justice is served, and I find the peace I fought to reclaim. Right after Shadow's info, I called Detective Rodriguez. We're investigating Victor Russo immediately. He said, his tone serious. But Michael, be careful. Don't go anywhere alone, and report anything suspicious. I nodded over the phone, feeling like I was in a thriller. I reached out to Sarah, told her everything, and she insisted on staying by my side. We'll get through this, Michael, she said, her voice steady. She can't win. Sarah's resolve was my strength, but I knew I couldn't just rely on her. I had to act. I contacted Rachel, still tracking Allison's story for her next article. Victor Russo is the missing piece, Rachel said. If we prove Allison hired him to threaten you, she won't just face fraud. She could be convicted of conspiracy. Rachel suggested meeting Mrs. J again, who had private security connections. I arranged to meet Mrs. J at a quiet West Seattle restaurant where we could talk uninterrupted. Mrs. J, as always, exuded calm authority. Michael, she said, sipping wine Allison's gone too far. Hiring Victor Russo isn't just desperate, it's foolish. I know the security firm that can track him. They'll work with Rodriguez to keep you safe. I thanked Mrs. J, feeling like I had an army. Rachel, Mrs. J, Shadow, and the survivors like Mark and Emily, who stayed in touch to support me. Meanwhile, Juliana called, more frantic. Michael, Allison contacted me through a friend at the detention center. She said Victor is ready to act, and laughed like she's won. I stayed calm, asking for details. Juliana sent a message from Allison's friend where Allison bragged Carter will never see this coming. I passed it to Rodriguez, who confirmed they were monitoring Allison's calls. Then a twist hit. One evening while Sarah and I dined at a Capitol Hill sushi spot, I got a text from Shadow. Michael Victor reached out. He knows I worked for Allison and wants help dealing with you. I recorded it. Shadow sent an audio where Victor, his voice chilling, said, Allison paid him to teach Carter a lesson, not kill, but scare him for life. Victor said Allison promised 20,000 more but doubted she had it. She's a snake, he said, but I need the cash, so I'll do it. I sent the recording to Rodriguez, who acted fast. Within 24 hours, Victor was arrested at a Tacoma motel, preparing to tail me. Under interrogation, he confessed Allison hired him via a dark web intermediary, gave photos and my schedule, and wanted me pressured to back off. Victor's phone had messages from Allison sent through an encrypted app, but hacked by Shadow. Those were the final evidence Rodriguez needed. Allison faced court with new charges: conspiracy to intimidate, hiring a criminal, and justice system abuse. Rachel, with London and San Francisco sources, published her third article, From Manipulation to Crime: The Downfall of Allison Hayes. It detailed Allison's path from college schemes to hiring Victor, shocking the tech industry. Companies reviewed slander policies, and Allison exposed trended. No one stood by her. I got a letter from Allison in detention. I hesitated, but opened it. The 3-page handwritten note mixed apologies with accusations she lost control, was protecting herself, and I pushed her. But I saw the same Allison blaming others, believing she was the victim. I folded it, didn't reply. She'd written her end. Allison's trial was months later. I didn't attend, but Rachel and Mark updated me. Allison got 5 years for fraud, harassment, and conspiracy. Victor got less after testifying. Jay, her real man, was blacklisted from tech for power abuse. Mrs. J, starting anew, texted, Justice isn't always fast, but it comes. In my apartment, looking at Puget Sound, I felt like a new person. I'd lost friends, a relationship, nearly my reputation, and safety. But I gained resilience, true friends like Sarah, Rachel, and Mrs. J. Faith that truth prevails. Sarah and I plan a Yellowstone trip, a fresh start. My job's steady, and I'm considering a book on this saga to share, overcoming betrayal. If you're watching and feel trapped in lies, hear me. You're not alone. Trust your instincts. Find believers and never let others define your worth. Allison tried to take everything, but she only made me my best self. This story, with its drama and pain, proves that even when the world turns against you, you can rise stronger than ever. Thank you for following to the end. If this resonated, share your story in the comments. Left true, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is a life your enemies can't touch.